Berkeley, California. There was a point earlier this year, after his house, along with his livelihood and his worldly possessions, had vanished in a fiery blaze, when Gary Hall Jr. perhaps fully realized why he was a swimmer. Sport is not life or death, the five-time Olympic gold medalist told USA Today Sports. It's entertainment. It really is, even at the Olympics. You've got so much invested by then. But still, at the end of the day, the world's not a better place because I swam fast. He was sitting at a picnic table under a tent at the Project Play Summit. Coaches and leaders from across the youth sports landscape traveled to the University of California in late March in search of ways to keep kids playing amid what has become a $40 billion industry that often pushes them out. Hall, 50, was a late bloomer in a simpler era. He didn't join a year-round swimming program until he was 13 or 14. Less than 10 years later, his long and graceful body climbed to the top of the podium at the first of his three Olympics: 1996, 2000, 2004 representing the United States. He had fun with talking trash to opponents to the point where it motivated an entire nation to want to beat him. Today, he is putting his life back together while living in a guest house near his sister's home in Encinitas, California. His swim school, where he taught 2 to 6-year-olds out of his backyard pool in Pacific Palisades, vanished, too, that day in January as wildfires ravaged Los Angeles. A father of 2 teenagers who have been through sports, Hall Jr. spoke to USA Today Sports about his athletic journey and how looking back at it could be helpful to young athletes and their parents. He pulled out what remained of 2 gold medals he recovered from the fire, one from Atlanta, one from Athens. They were now melted together. This could be lesson no. 1. Success, he says, was a very humbling experience. Extreme sports, our environment and our parents offer us an athletic path, we decide how to navigate it. When he was winning medals, Hall used to wear silk boxing robes to the pool deck. He was poking fun at ego and convention. He had done it since he was a boy, and Olympians would come to his local pool club to give motivational talks to him and his teammates. I was rolling my eyes, like, yeah, okay, character development, he said. As a teenager, he wanted to be more like Tony Hawk than his father, 3-time Olympic medalist Gary Hall Sr. Hall Sr. was as a swimmer in the 1968, 1972 and 1976 Olympics, and a 2-time World Swimmer of the Year. Hawk was a pioneer of skateboarding, much more a fad in the 1980s than the crossover Olympic sport it is today. To my dad, it was just a bunch of punk kids, which I loved about it, Hall Jr. said. People asked, do you want to follow in your father's footsteps? No, to a certain degree, I took it for granted. Hall's grandfather, Charles Keating Jr., was a collegiate swimming champion. Keating built a swim facility where Hall's parents met. He built another swim club in Phoenix, where the family moved when Hall was 7. There, the temperatures reached 120 degrees in the summer. Skateboarding lasted 15 or 20 minutes before Gary and his friends wound up in the water. It was almost because of extreme climate that I ended up being a swimmer, he said. And once we were in the pool, I was always, I'll race you from here to there. That surge of adrenaline he got going head-to-head against a competitor became enough of a carrot to sustain him within a grueling sport. You spend the entire year training for one big meet, Hall said. So the work-race balance is substantial, but it didn't matter. I loved that 1% of the sport, the race part. Smash them like guitars, when the competition becomes fun. Hall said his father never really taught him how to do a better flip turn or reviewed his races with him. He mostly just told his son to enjoy himself. Hall understood the advice when he watched footage of his dad behind the starting blocks as a highly touted Olympian. His knee was bouncing up and down and the blood appeared to have drained from his face. He's just not having fun, Hall said, and so what I interpreted was to be present, enjoy the atmosphere, the experience. And stress is a big part of that, and anxiety before the race and feeling sick to my stomach. And you just learn how to accept that as part of the overall experience. But really, I think it became a great attribute of mine that I had an ability to be present. Each moment, he observed, whether you were lined up and ready to race or hanging out with your teammates, was a unique opportunity to relish. There's plenty of towel snapping in the locker rooms and trash talking as a skinny, no good high school swimmer, Hall said, his smile and bright blue eyes widening. And I didn't get good until the end of high school, so swimming at an elite level wasn't even a consideration. But really, I think it became a great attribute of mine that I had an ability to be present. Each moment, He observed, whether you were lined up and ready to race or hanging out with your teammates, was a unique opportunity to relish. There's plenty of towel snapping in the locker rooms and trash talking as a skinny, no good high school swimmer, Hall said, his smile and bright blue eyes widening. And I didn't get good until the end of high school, so swimming at an elite level wasn't even a consideration.